Zach Bamberger, it's so good to have you here. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well as can be in this time, and thank you for all the amazing work that we're doing. Social media for Israel. It's such an awesome initiative. I'm honored to take a small part of it myself, and it's incredible to see the energy that's ensuing on our Slack channel and all the amazing things happening from the all the way from the tech perspective, all to the actual execution and productionization of it. I'm shocked at the speed that this is moving at. I think it's probably faster than most startups I got to see and follow, and so I'm very excited to dive into this with you. You know, going back a little bit, tell me a little bit about yourself and perhaps a little bit about your team members and what are you doing in the world these days outside of the war?
Sure. I'll start with myself. I'm finishing up my master's at the Technion. Originally, I guess, I'm an Israeli American. Grew up in Haifa. I studied in the States a little bit at Cornell, and then I worked for a couple of years at Google in California before deciding to do the whole MSc PhD thing here. I was really passionate about natural language processing and figured that it would be good to come home and work with someone like my current advisor, Jonathan Belinkov. Yeah, that kind of covers me, I think. When it comes to some of my teammates, I have to shout out Neil Regev, who is basically leading everything that has to do with building our platform, front end, back end, scraping, everything. That's been him. And we have an amazing team of researchers who've volunteered to help us, Stanford postdocs, other Stanford students. I guess it runs strong with you as well. And people from industry, Microsoft, Google. It seems like everybody is just coming together to try to help.
Yeah, can you go back into Saturday morning when this all started and where were you? How what did this catch you? What were you doing?
Um, I was in Vietnam. It was my first vacation in about 2 years.
Oh wow.
Um, I was there with my partner. We were in Ho Chi Minh City. We had tourist plans, and we started hearing news at a certain point. It was the afternoon for us. It was 4 hours ahead, and we were just shocked. And our eyes were stuck to our phones. We immediately called our families. In her case, it was difficult because some of her family keeps Shabbat. So we felt a kind of hopelessness, inability to help. And I guess I grew tired of that really quickly and tried to figure something else that I could do with all these emotions, and figured that if I can't help, like the traditional, in the traditional way of army service here in Israel, I can try to use what I know technologically in order to try to help. And I have experience in the Hasbara front of things already from my days in college, fighting misinformation from Students for Justice in Palestine and the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement.
Wow. Okay. And so, when this whole thing started, um, gathering the initial group of people, you had, bringing in the idea. What was that experience like? Walk me through the formation of this project.
So I think it all really started when I started writing some code myself, just for a simple tool for translating posts from Hebrew or Arabic to English, just to try to broaden the impact of posts that I kept on seeing that were really good in Hebrew or automatically translated on like on
Yeah.
some others from some other source to English. And I understood that the quality was good, but that it wasn't really accessible to the crowd of people that.
But what happens when you what was going to happen once you translate it to English? So you see an amazing post. You scrape the posts that are Hebrew and Arabic that are not accessible necessarily to the wider Western public. You're translating them to English. You're starting to write code on this yourself. And what is meant to happen with the posts that you identify as high quality?
Um, I mean, there are a few metrics that we're looking at here. So is it pro or anti-Israel? Is it is it popular now? And also, are we predicting that it will become viral in the near or longer future, which is another metric that we're looking at. And we try to prioritize posts that are viral and anti-Israel for a pipeline that we have for reporting, but that's something that came later. The original thing was to try to take posts that are pro-Israel and potentially viral in Hebrew and try to translate them to English so that they can gain traction among the international crowd.
Yeah.
And when we posted that, or when I posted that online in the MDLI community, Uri's MDLI community, just a ton of people.
What's the MDLI community?
The MDLI community is the Israel Machine Learning and Data Science community, and it includes thousands of people, really, really passionate scientists, data scientists, researchers, engineers, and everybody just jumped on board from there.
Incredible. Okay, so you started off coding yourself. Did you realize you're trying to create now a group? How many people are involved in this now?
Just the research team is about 35 active people. When we look at our WhatsApp group, we're about 120 or so people, and the development team is also like a separate entity, and we try to collaborate with each other as much as possible.
What was the shift for you when did this become no longer a Zach project to now, okay, this is actually a big movement that today we're going to talk soon about the potential impact, but I'm convinced it has the potential to make incredible impact?
I'll be honest with you very quickly. I mean, I was struggling to try to get, my flight tickets to try to get back to Israel so that I could be back and next to my family.
You were doing that in Vietnam still?
Yeah.
Wow.
All of this was on the first day in Vietnam. So I was kind of juggling between the two. And that's when Neil and Ariel and some of the other early people just jumped on board and started helping and taking on leadership roles. And I mean, everybody just wanted to help as much as they could. They understood everybody's constraints. There was a common understanding that we were all volunteers. And so everybody was just offering a helping hand. I'll cover for you. If you're not available in these hours, I'll take on this role. That's kind of how it started, and it grew with that mentality.
And how did you start thinking about managing, research with volunteers? You're mentioning, the covering of hours, but a lot of this is, you're writing new tools that didn't necessarily exist before. You're, in part, you're talking about, different languages, and soon we'll talk about the larger mission. But from even a leadership perspective, how do you manage team of dozens of researchers that are volunteer based? Some of them, I guess, are in reserve. Some of them are working in the day-to-day. How do you manage through that?
So first of all, understand your audience, the community of researchers. First of all, they care deeply about their country.
Yeah.
They have the same basic instinct of wanting to fight and defend what they consider part of their identity. And they're also very passionate about particular fields. So the objective was to try to give people a way to positively, impact the pro-Israel narrative on social media using a skill that they value tremendously and that they think could be impactful and integrated into a platform. And it was important to be able to synchronize the idea for a kind of technology with how it will actually be accessible to our audience. And what are our basic principles? For example, we're building a language model to do this translation. Do we trust it 100%? No. So how about we find a bunch of volunteers, expert translators, to verify it first, and then run statistical experiments until we can't distinguish between the quality of our human translators and the quality of our language models. At that point, we can make that transition. But until that point, we improve the model through iterative, experimentation with different prompts, different base models, and perhaps knowledge injection and other state-of-the-art methods. I don't think we're doing anything new. We're not inventing the wheel here. We're just using technologies that are at the forefront of artificial intelligence for a goal that I don't think it's been used for before, nearly a military goal.
Incredible. Okay, so now let's talk broader about the mission and the vision for what this what you're doing here. So it has a name. It has a you have almost a brand. It's an entity. It's a movement that's way beyond what it started with. So share with me a little bit about what is it that it is today, 8.5 days after you said, okay, I'm going to go at something.
So Social Media for Israel is a community of volunteers with two main branches, the development branch led by Nir Regev and the research branch that I'm trying to organize. I can speak a little bit about my group. We are about 4 different research managers or research leaders, as we like to say, and each one of us, at the very least, has an MSc and some industry experience as well. IBM, École Polytechnique, DataGen, Microsoft, my experience with Google and what have you. So a bunch of experience, and we define a whole bunch of projects and people with amazing credentials, also from, schools like Stanford and Technion and Ben Gurion and all these companies. They volunteer on individual projects that we've laid out, and we coordinate that with a development team to iteratively introduce what we show as proof of concept demos into our platform. So again, we have
platform, and then you have teams that are doing proof of concepts, and this goes back to what you mentioned before in identifying the sweet spot, I guess, or aligning the passions of the researchers with their respective fields. So what's common, I guess, for all 130 people in the WhatsApp is that everybody is fully dedicated to the mission of protecting their families and neighbors in our country. And then you add another layer on top of that at fine-tuning, the specific POCs with the relative passions and interests from a research perspective of these groups, do the POC and then integrate them back into this platform, which is beautiful.
And it's fast. When people
All right, talk to me about the fast. How do you make it fast? How do you do research fast?
How do you do research fast? You encounter a problem where if you don't have it working, you can't stop. I'm not sure if, everybody will necessarily understand that feeling, but for researchers, I think it's very common where you're just like, okay, I have to make this work. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to stop. Maybe I won't eat even though I'm hungry, but I've got to get this to work. And I think that a lot of people have gotten that kind of mentality when they've been working, the translation tool up in like about a day, V1. V2, actually using an ensemble of language models super quickly, V2, and when it comes to, say, the reporting tool, I think that was also done in a day, the proof of concept there. So when you put people who really care about what they're doing and see the potential impact of it, they love it. They work hard on it. And, that's what, and I'm the same. My passion project is persuasive argumentation, and that's going into this as well. And when you're able to express both your passion for an area of interest and at the same time fight for something that you really care about and is, central to your identity, then you're very, very motivated.
What are some of the unique POCs that you've identified that are that went into the platform, and how is this platform going to start actually executing in the day-to-day now?
Sure. So what we have right now live is the ability to report posts that are either pro or anti-Israel in this conflict, in this war. The thing that's coming out, I believe, tomorrow is the ability to actually have the translation tool where our translating experts will be able to translate manually, look over translated posts, make small changes to them, and then they're submitted to our system and shown to our viewers. And again, by having it go through our experts, we're actually gaining data in order to be able to use better prompts and better models for the particular tasks. Say, one prompt might be better when it comes to translate. One kind of phrasing might be better when translating from English to French, and worse when it comes to translating from English to Spanish, or something like that. And these are things that we're hoping to already integrate into our data collection from day one. Day one of V1, not V0, which we are in now. Another thing that we have already working demo, but hoping to roll out soon, is again the reporting posting. And something that we're working on in collaboration with AI21 Labs is the post improvement kind of flow, which is basically you upload a pro-Israel post and you're able to make it more compelling from a narrative perspective. So it's not like you're answering an anti-Israel post, you're just strengthening the tones and writing style of a pro-Israel post. And you can see how with all of these different features, you can have iterations of self-improvement or translation into improvement or, what have you. So we're basically building these core features into our platform and showing them to our end users so that they're able to act on social media down the line.
I want to go up a little bit and strategically and talk a little bit about why this is important. Why is this, you're spending so much time on this and so many people are spending so much time on this together. Why is this problem space that you chose specifically around social media narrative and virality of posts? Why is this an important piece of the conflict that we're in?
Okay, let's start with the really, really basic thing, which is basically public opinion matters when it comes to people who are going to vote in the States. If they are just flooded with posts that are very compelling and anti-Israel, then that's where their sentiment will shift.
Yep.
And in order for leaders to get elected, then they will have to align with that view in order to adhere to their audience. So being able to kind of combat that, given the fact that there are very few Jews in the world relative to Muslims, and predominantly Muslims support the Palestinian cause and Jews support the Israeli cause, I think that there's a little bit of an imbalance in power. So being able to use this technology to level the playing field is important. In addition to that, these technologies are generalizable broadly when it comes to combating anti-Semitism in the States, even outside of the context of war, kind of making it very clear that it's not okay, that certain narratives of BDS are extremely harmful towards peace, and that certain narratives of SJP as well are harmful. And in that sense, maybe this tool is helpful to preventing violence or of any kind against Jews in the States.
Mm-hmm. And so if you now think about, the war is going to be over hopefully sooner rather than later, and we will look back and reflect, well, what would have been an outcome that you would tangibly feel, happy, content, fulfilled with looking back at this massive project? Not just you, but the hundreds of people that by that time will have taken part in it.
I would like to know that I did what I could to defend my country's reputation. I don't agree with the government, but I side with the country. I don't want Israel to be known as a country that is brutal in its responses, even though innocent people do die. I think that people should recognize Israelis as reasonable people, people that want peace. And in this case, we're forced into conflict. And that we're doing our very best to minimize loss of civilian life. It's tragic on both ends. So if there's anything that we can achieve as an organization, it's to portray that point effectively and combat misinformation, which attacks that perspective.
Zach, I'm so proud to have had the chance to share this with others. Watching it and participating as a part of this group is an inspiring feeling. It's a thrilling feeling. Like I mentioned before, it's moving faster than I think any startup that I've seen, and I think it's remarkable, especially here where you're able to take deep technology, sometimes research, integrate a large group of people everybody on a volunteer basis under a unified mission, and you're able to actually execute to get into production level executable products or systems that are not just concepts but actual tangible impactful technologies. That's, I think, what's really remarkable here, beyond the reason to believe and the why and the impact that you're having. And I think that that's just something to look at, just in an inspiring way from Startup Nation and what this represents and what happens when you really get a group of people who truly care about something and you put them in the same room under a good leadership with both technological vision, but also real humane vision. So thank you for inviting me to take part of it, and thank you for spending this very precious time to talk about it.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to have you on board, and being able to identify deepfakes is really important for our cause.
100%. Thank you, Zach.